What's up, bikers? This is the B1KER Bar Podcast, episode 121. And today's guest is going to be VelociRAX. If you haven't heard of them, they are making a hanging rack that is something a little different than. I mean, I'm sure if you've been on the trailhead, you've seen them around because they're definitely getting more and more popular. But before we get into that, first of all, I want to thank everybody who ends up showing up here live and all of those of you that dealt with me switching the time around. It is what it is. These things happen in life sometimes, but nonetheless, here we are. Those of you guys listening to this as a podcast down the road, it's right on time for you guys. So we're doing great. If you guys haven't done me the favor of swinging by my Instagram or my Facebook and give me a follow over there, please do it. Honestly, I was looking at Facebook. For some reason, that thing will not go over 1,000 people. I don't know what it is. So I'm like always just under 1,000. So if you guys can make that happen, that'd be awesome. On the other hand, Instagram, right around 5,000 people there. So that's really rad. And I appreciate all you guys. But those of you that haven't done it, do it, because that's where you get the updates and you kind of see what's going on with the channels and a lot of good stuff over there. So, and it's free. Why not? Right? All you got to do is you click the link, right? Click the button. Pretty simple. Outside of that, if you have a chance, if you really want to support the channel, you can swing by Patreon, do a little something over there. It's just like, each one of these how about this? The other day, I ordered some food, went over there and picked it up, and all they did was hand it to me, and I gave them a tip. I gave them like a 20% tip, which was like way more than what it costs for Patreon for a month. So you get 4 episodes a month, and then you can do it for as little as $1. If you want to be in the next tier up for $5, get a sticker pack, get a handwritten letter, get to feel like you're part of something. No, you also get the early access to the videos. You get extra cut videos, longer cut videos, and sometimes some content that doesn't even make it to YouTube. So, for instance, right now there's a new 80-pound vlog up there. It's been there. I don't think it'll go live on YouTube until Sunday. So you could be watching that episode right now if you were on there. Nonetheless, I really appreciate all you guys, no matter what you do. If you just like this, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe. If you're listening to podcasts, swing by Apple Podcasts and write a review. Lots of people go over there and read those, including me. And it feels good to see what's going on over there. Let's go ahead and bring Bryce on from... I am like not operating my brain today well. How's it going, Bryce?
Hey, doing good. How are you?
Good, man. Just like I was saying to you before the show started, today is one of those days, where you just run around and everything feels like hectic. But realistically, you could probably just go about things in your normal way and it would be fine. But instead, you just feel like frazzled. That's where I'm at today.
I've been doing my running around today. I was at Home Depot at 8 o'clock this morning trying to fix some stuff. So,
yeah.
The battles.
For the business.
Sorry, what's that?
For the house or for the business?
For the house. I had to get a couple things fixed up, and actually ended up buying some tools for the business while I was there as well. So I guess a little bit of both.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I had a buddy when I was younger told me, he's like, look, no matter what happens, when you do a project, you always buy a tool. Yeah. He's like, you don't want to mess this up. That way the lady knows every time you do a project, there has to be a new tool.
That's the trick, getting the right tools and getting plenty of them. Then you got to have more place to store them. But yeah. Yep.
So you started VelociRAX. What made you decide to do that?
Well, it goes a ways back. We started back in 2017. I remember the day I was helping my brother load up a rack on the back of his Suburban, right? It's those types that had the prongs coming out, and he had 4 bikes. After smashing them on there, he had to put one on top flat because he needed 5, and so we had been playing this game of bikes and mashing and beating them up, trying to get places. That kind of started us down the path of how can we do this different? How can we make it better? How can we make something big enough that it can haul our family's worth of bikes down the road? So that's really where it started, was just all the problems we had been having in trying to get our bikes to the trailhead, to the vacation spot, to Moab,
Yeah. Those ones that just point off the back are really a pain. And especially like the way, I think when they were originally designed, it made more sense because every frame was the same. But now it's like every frame has some weird angle or geometry or cross tube, and one like bike goes on there straight and the other ones are like all wonky and sideways. And
and you still see people using them. You'll be driving up behind and you see bikes all cockeyed. You're like, is that bike about to fall off and I need to change lanes?
Yeah.
Or is it going to stay attached,
I could never get myself to like have the trust in one of those, especially when you see them driving. They're just like the way they'd be swinging around. It didn't seem like it was a legitimate way to go about it.
Yeah, we got tired. That's what we did as kids when we were mountain biking. That was the rack we had. And we just figured there's got to be a way to haul more bikes, to haul multiple bike types, tire types. There was a million things to try to solve for. And that we set out to start solving some of those problems. One of the earliest problems we were trying to solve was, with kids, you don't want the whole garage to be bikes. You want to park your car in there too. And our kids would just pile their bikes. You got to have a rack in the garage. And so we're like, can we make this rack do both? Was kind of one of the early things we set out to do, is to keep the rack useful when it's not on the back of your vehicle. So anyway.
I was talking to my buddy before the show about who was going to be on, and he just bought a new vehicle, so he was going to be getting a different rack than what he had before. And he was talking about getting a hitch mount rack, and I mentioned that to him about you were going to be on the show, and that your rack it has like a garage mount so that you can put it in and hang the bikes in the garage as well. And he was like, it was like you could just see it, like his mind like it was like, that's awesome. Because I have one of those older Thule racks that's like it's a 4-bike rack, but man, that thing weighs a ton, and there's not a good way to store it if it's not on my vehicle.
Yeah.
So you said it was your brother that you were talking with originally?
Yeah. So me and my brother are co-founders of this company. He has degrees in engineering and has done a lot of engineering in his career. I came from the agency side of things, working, building websites, marketing, that type of thing, business degree. And so we both have kind of this different approach. We both kind of have the same outdoor kind of mentality. We grew up camping, biking, boating, whatever it was. We weren't in the house. We were outside hiking, fishing, backpacking.
Yeah.
And that's where we always were. We didn't have the, back in our day. Nowadays, the kids have high school bike teams, at least in Utah, it's really big. And the high schools get together and bike, and then they race on the weekend. We didn't have that, but we had the hills, and we had the early age mountain bikes that we started on back in the 80s. And we were cruising the hills back then and been outside. And then really that's kind of where we're at. We love it and enjoy being out there, and are really, really like being, in the industry where we can help make the situation better for families and for those hauling bikes around.
Right. You said you started in the 80s, and what kind of mountain bikes were you riding back then?
So this was kind of right. I want to say my first bike was 1988. It was a Nishiki brand. It had the solid forks up front. It's probably more of a crappy gravel bike today. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was no suspension. The bars were cable pulls on rim brakes. I mean,
I first started in, I think, the early 90s, and my first like good bike was my very first one was like from Montgomery Ward's, and then I got a Giant, and that was the same thing, fully rigid. They didn't even have any suspension on any of their bikes in their mountain bike line back then, and the tubing was like, There, I remember distinctively, like they was like oversized tubing was like their big like
Yeah.
marketing thing. And if you look at that bike now, I mean the stanchions on a 30 Fox 34 are probably bigger than those two, like the whole frame was. You know
Yep.
what I mean? It's kind of
Yeah. Today's bikes sure are a pleasure to ride. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun maintaining them and keeping them going and enjoying outdoors.
So how do you explain your rack to somebody that hasn't seen it or used one before? What's your elevator pitch?
Oh, the elevator pitch. Okay. Where I typically start was with vertical racks. Many people have seen vertical racks, and the thing that's difficult with vertical racks is you got to lift the bike so high over your head that you're doing all of it, right? You're loading the whole
Mhm.
family. You're loading, if anybody's with you, you end up loading a lot of bikes. And so we've crafted a rack that through the use of dampers will hinge back without, you being the burden of carrying the load. So the rack will lay back. We call it roll in, roll out loading. You'll unstrap both tires, pull back on the bars and just back away, and the bike rolls out. When it comes time to load, you pop it up on the back tire, basically wheelie it in, roll it in, strap it down. The way the rack lays back, you have backdoor access. So if you've got a hatchback, SUV, a minivan, Subaru, any of these types of cars that have that back hatch, you can get access because the rack will get out of the way. And then when you're ready to go, all you've got to do is push up on those bikes, get the bikes vertical, and you're ready to go. So two big items with our rack is all racks come with a garage mount. So you can take the rack off of the vehicle, mount it on the wall, and then store bikes in your garage. It sits on the floor. It's stabilized by a mount on the wall, and it's ready to take bikes in and out all day long. So it helps in the garage as well. It becomes useful. The other big item is we have a built-in integrated anti-rattle system, and it is a big sliding wedge. So it's not a weak system. It's tightened with a 17 millimeter bolt. We do this because number one, it gets tighter, and number one, we have bigger surface areas to really lock it in your wedge. So that rack is not banging around in your hitch. Your bikes are solid, everything's locked down, and you're good to go. So that's kind of
Yeah.
the quick pitch, I guess.
Yeah, no. I mean, and obviously we have plenty of time to not have to be quick, but I was just trying to get for the people that are listening that weren't really like familiar with the project or the product. I figured we probably should do them a favor and explain it, right?
Yeah.
So
well, if you've seen a red rack out there, that's what we got going, red and black.
So how did you go from this idea of your rack that you were using sucks to like actually coming up with something? Because there are several other hanging rack style brands out there now, but I mean that's all pretty recent,
Yeah, there are there are a handful of other vertical racks out there. We had seen other ones out there, so we're like, there's got to be a way we can do this. And so that's just the way we started. It's like, well, vertical seems to be the way you can get more packed into your hitch. And the other thing is you get all that weight closer to your vehicle. So like on a 4 tray rack, you're extending further and further away. All our bikes, that weight's closer. You're putting less leverage on your hitch.
Yeah.
But that's really where we started, was how can we get a basket, we call them C hoops, that'll hold your tire and hold multiple tire types. Like how can we make it hold a road bike? How can we, get a gravel, get a mountain bike, a 20 incher, a 29 incher, a flat bike. And so we just started playing with a lot of different options. And let me tell you, the fail fast method of getting something done is what you need to do. Fail as many times as you have to, as quickly as possible to get to a solution. And we iterated, I don't know how many times, but there was plenty of arguments, plenty of trial, plenty of error,
Right.
cut, bend, weld, try again. That's our process to try different ideas. Obviously, we do that in CAD. Then we prototype that, and then we run into the problem of, oh, we didn't anticipate that being a problem, and whatnot. So there's a lot of things you learn as you bend, weld, cut, try
Yeah.
again. Anyway.
Yeah, I definitely I can definitely relate with you there. I recently got a 3D printer, so I've been inventing a bunch of stuff.
I love them. Yeah.
And God, man, you think you have this design like dialed, and you're like do it in a 3D modeling program. It looks great, and then you go to like put it together or put it on whatever you're doing, and it's not working. And you're like, what the hell?
I can't tell you how many times we're like, no, we got this good. Let's start producing it.
Yeah.
And then we say, let's print it once 3D. And we go to try to insert it. And it's like, wait a minute. We didn't think how it wouldn't fit right there. So number one, the way to rapid prototype with those guys is wonderful. Pick it up the next morning, try it out, break it, realize you got to change it, do it again.
Yeah, totally. And some things that are so simple. I made a the EDC pump, that I'm talking, which pump I'm talking about?
What type of ABC?
EDC. It's they also make the EDC tool. It goes in your headset. It's like a mountain bike thing. I can't think of that. What the One Up, I think, is who makes it. Anyways, they got this pump, and the pump, like, it's a bike pump, like for on your you carry it on your bike. Yeah. And the way that there's some like furling in the part that you slide on your tire stem. And I think for probably like 90% of the bikes out there, the way they have it designed, it doesn't touch the frame. But on my frame, it does. And all that does is just like scratch the frame up, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I'm just going to make a cap. Like, how hard is it to make a cap? I bet you I printed like 15 of those things before I got that thing dialed.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's just silly. So like I can relate with the frustration of trying to come up with something and make it work. Yeah. So you mentioned that the rack works for mountain bikes and road bikes, and I never really thought about putting a road bike in a rack like that. Because in a mountain bike, you're like, I don't care, man. This thing gets bounced all over the place, and like the wheel kind of really like holds it in there. Is there some kind of something that like fills in the hole where the tire goes whenever you put a road bike in there? Or is it just how does it hold the road bike just as well?
So yeah, the road bike loads up just the same. The thing that's different about our basket, and I wish I had a picture. I should be sitting somewhere with one right behind me and not just my road bike behind me. But yeah, last week we 5-hour road trip. We took the team down. We all did a triathlon, kind of a first for some of us, but we gave it a shot. Mm-hmm. But our rack is different in the way the basket sits, because you've got a bar here, and then the basket comes up at an angle such that you can wedge the tire kind of down in this thing, and then it straps in. So it's not prepared for something big and round. It's able to take all different sizes as they kind of tuck into the corner. So the tire tucks in, you strap it down, strap both tires. The one thing we do say with longer road trips and whatnot is grab some rubber bands. Our racks do come with rubber bands, and just throw them around the brake levers. What that does is it locks that axle so it can't rotate forward and back.
That makes sense.
A lot of vertical racks all the vertical racks, depending on how you're mounting. If you're mounting on your tire can roll forward and back just a teeny bit, and left and right on that front tire that's kind of turned. So locking the brakes kind of stops any independent motion, and basically the rack moves, the bike moves, and so it really locks it on tighter. You do that with your road bike. Yeah, we had a ton of them, and I've done a lot more miles with road bikes on my rack, so I do not worry about it. There's some things you can do. You can put some, people will tell us how they put, pipe insulation on it to pad this, or our straps fit on the tire basket bar, so you can put a rubber layer around it. There's a lot of little different tricks you can do, and those are seen on our website. So there's many things you can do, but yeah, I don't worry about putting my high-end road bikes on there as well.
Yeah. I don't think, I know at least my personality set wouldn't really care, if it had a little wiggle, but I can definitely understand that there's a lot of people out there that are a little bit more finicky about their the bike, the way it looks, you know.
Oh
So
yeah, you like your stuff to be shiny and nice.
yeah,
You don't
yeah.
want scratches. If you get scratches, they need to have a story behind them coming down the mountain, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm I wish I could be that guy that's like wants my bike always clean, but I'll be honest, I'm just too damn lazy for it, you know. And I
Yeah,
feel like it's like added stress, you know, because then you get it scratched, then you're all upset about it. I'm like, if I just don't care, then I don't have to worry about it at all.
yeah, no, exactly. Well, yeah, and you spend a lot of money on these. I can see why guys can get worried. They're expensive. You got to take care of them and
Yeah, totally.
whatnot. So I get it too.
I thought that I could be that person, but I came to the conclusion when I was younger. I remember I never had like I didn't grow up with much money, and I remember seeing these people with these like really nice cars, and they would be always like dirty and stuff like that. And I remember thinking, man, if I had a car like that, man, I would that thing would be clean all the time. And then fast forward to where I'm at in my life right now, and I wash my truck like twice a year.
Yeah.
Like totally, I'm like, I do not care.
Yep. Some people got to have the perfect looking truck, and some people it's
Yeah,
a working machine. You know.
yeah, definitely. I think, you know, when you do a lot of outdoor stuff, it's just, at least for me, it would be like I would spend so much money and time trying to keep that thing clean all the time. It's
Yeah.
like we take our dog down to the river, he jumps in the back seat, it's like freaking mud everywhere, and then the next
Yeah.
day it's like we're all going mountain biking, doing shuttle laps, and yeah, it's a mess. So
Yeah.
um so you guys have a bunch of different sizes. I think your smallest, if I remember correctly, is a 3, and your largest is a 7 bike. Is that correct?
You bet. Yeah. Anywhere from 3 bikes to 7 bikes. And obviously, you can buy a big one and put one bike on it, but they come in different spacing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we have 2 versions of our 5 rack,
Mm-hmm.
one with 10-inch spacing and one with 15-inch spacing. Our 15-inch spacing really was my desire to put a few road bikes on there. And at 10-inch spacing, you can't get the bars to where the bikes don't touch.
Oh,
And
interesting.
you got to monkey with the bars, or you're skipping every other, which is great if you got a big rack and you're only putting, 4 bikes on a 7 works great.
Yeah.
But a road bike will block the next one. So we have our 5X 15-inch spacing, and our 3 is our 3X, right? So it has 15-inch spacing as well. All our racks can take 230 pounds of bike weight, so you can put e-bikes on our rack, no problem. It'll take, we say, 55 pounds a bike slot, and so really you're getting a big, burly, tough rack. It can
So you
take
could
the
put 7 e-bikes on that. That doesn't add up, right?
Yeah, you can't put 70, but you can put 4, right? At
Uh-huh.
55 pounds, you're right at what is that, 220?
Uh-huh. Okay.
And so 4 e-bikes, when you get that much weight on there, you realize, yeah, that's a lot of bike weight,
Yeah.
and at some point it's like, how much can the hitch and the car that I'm putting this on handle? Um, we know our rack can take the weight. We know it can take more than that, but we don't want people overloading their vehicle. We do ask for, the class 3, a 2-inch receiver hitch, class 3 with a 500-pound tongue weight, because they're built beefier. They're locked
Right.
down. You can put it on a 300-pound hitch capacity, but there might be a little more movement in it.
You know,
But
I didn't even know that there was a different rating for hitches. I thought if
yeah,
you had a 2-inch, it was like you're good for anything. I didn't.
well, you'll see a 2-inch on a minivan and a 2-inch on a truck. The truck's got a lot more welding gussets in
Yeah.
there to help support it. So, on a minivan or a smaller vehicle that's got a 2-inch hitch, we're kind of classifying ourselves with safety
Right.
for these racks. But anyway, back to your original question, just our sizing from our 3 with 15-inch spacing, we have a 4 that's 12-inch spacing, and then our 5, which 10-inch spacing, they're roughly, I mean, the 5 is slightly bigger than the 4, and the 4 is slightly bigger than the 3. They just have different spacings, but those would go behind any car out there. That 5 is not that wide. Put it on a smaller, call it a RAV4 or one of these, smaller SUVs. You can put a 5 on there. The 6 rack starts to get wide, right? And you want potentially a bigger vehicle for that. Our 6 has 10-inch spacing. And then our 5X and our 7 rack are both the same width, right? They're 73 inches wide. They're really designed behind full-size vehicles. So if you got a full-size van, truck, SUV, they fit great. We have plenty of people that are willing to put them behind smaller vehicles. I have it on occasion as well, but they are slightly wider than your car. And that bothers some people, and some people are fine with it. So just know if you're wanting to haul 7 bikes, you got a big load back there. It's going to be wide. But yeah, across our racks, those sizings typically fit the gamut of desire from the people. Everybody will want slight versions here and there, but it's hard to manufacture, a million different iterations. So these were the ones that really stuck. They seem to work well with what we've got and the people that are buying our racks. So
interesting. So was 7 decided just because that's the most that you could get with the spacing? I mean, because in my head, I have an F-150. I can't think of a time that I've had 7 bikes. I've definitely had 6 bikes in the back, and that's already we're squeezing 4 people in the back seat.
Yeah, exactly. I
guess a minivan maybe.
Yeah, most cars will have 5 seats, right? So the 5 makes sense. When it comes to the 7, these SUVers that have the 3rd row, it's that type of situation where you got 7, 8 people. You want bike. We've had multiple people. When are you going to build an 8? And we've joked about it on Instagram. Who wants an 8? And a lot of people want them. We're kind of confined by 2 things. One, the width. We're really not wanting to go much wider. We have a little bit more room for legal street, width, but we want to stay well within that. So for width reason, I don't think we'll ever go to an 8. And from a standpoint of weight capacity on a hitch on a vehicle, you really start to inch toward, wow, that's a lot of weight on a vehicle on the hitch, So from a weight and a size, 7 kind of maxes it out. We need it. I have 5 children. A couple are grown and gone now, but when you have a family with a few kids, you want to take your road bike, your mountain bike, and the rest of your kids' bikes. You need a couple extra slots.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This kind of fills that gap to where you can get a bike or 2 for yourself, and then the family's mountain bikes.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense.
So,
dang, I had something funny. You guys should totally, for April Fools, put out an Instagram post that's we're doing a 14 bike rack system. Just Photoshop it hanging off the back of a little cross tech or something like that.
That's what that's a great idea.
So how did you guys originally design it? So your brother just designed it in CAD, and then at that point, did you go to you knew a metal guy that could weld for you, or you took it somewhere to start trying to figure out how you're going to get it manufactured?
No, so we actually started with prototypes. So we're welders and benders. My dad's an engineer as well, and as kids we were taught how to weld, and then we kind of grew up from there into bigger toys and welding bigger things. Like I said, my brother's degree is engineering. He's done a lot of friction stir welding with aluminum, and aircraft was his master's thesis, and some of this stuff. And so he understands a lot about metal and fatigue with whatnot. And so we literally were buying steel, and we were cutting and bending and welding ourselves to prototype it. So it started with, well, let's start here and let's see if that works. And we didn't like that, and we tried something else again and put more weight on it and found, that wanted to bend. We need to do something different. And that's when we really decided, after a few iterations, let's get into CAD, design it in CAD, run some structural analysis, do the calculations, know the points at which the weight loads were bearing, and really run the calculations to see what it could hold. it's funny not being an engineer. You know, my brother will talk about shear and bend and all these different things that can happen with steel and what the strength of steel does compared to aluminum. And we can get into that another time if you want to talk that. You probably need somebody a little more intelligent than me, but I
don't like to get in the weeds that far, man. We're good.
Yeah, we got into the drawings and the calculations, and literally we had built the version. We totally built it out in CAD, had the thickness and everything spec'd. We knew the strengths. We had done the calculations. We don't run with a 1x safety factor. No one ever should. I don't know if people can show or will show their calculations, but we have a 2 to 3, maybe even 4x safety factor, which means as you're driving down the road, right, you're hitting bumps, you're taking corners, you're jamming on the brakes. Things have got to withhold the acceleration forces, right? You get in a wreck, you're bombing down a dirt road and you hit a big pothole. That instantaneous load isn't just, 100 pounds of bikes on the back there. For that instant, that could be 400-pound load, right?
Right.
So you really have to take a safety factor into these things and how they're built. And it was funny. The first time my brother said, well, now we get to go out and break this thing. We had spent hours and hours. We had been working with our manufacturer. We had these things. We were kind of dialing it in, as we like to call it. And he said, we're going to go bust this thing. And I'm like, wait a minute. We got weeks and hours and tons of work in this thing. You want to break it? Well, that's the proof's in the pudding, right?
Yeah, you have to do that, right?
We've calculated our rack will do this.
Right.
So we went out to the Timbuktu. We had one vehicle with a good rack. So when we broke this rack, we could move all our bikes onto the other rack and take them home.
Yeah.
And we put 7 bikes on, and we strapped 20 pounds onto each bike. And we went bombing down some country roads, potholes, through rivers, just pounding things to find the flaws. And it was funny. So I think I was lead vehicle driving up this hill, right? We're in 4-wheel drive, nearly bouncing this truck with a lot of weight on the back. And I'm like, is something going to break and come flying through the tailgate of the truck? I mean, we're just beating this thing up. My brother is tailgating me with a camera out the window, trying to catch every movement and motion as to what's going on, right? And we're just beating down the road, guy with the camera, great. And we're wanting to be in Timbuktu when it breaks so no one will see what happens and we can analyze it. Anyway, we found a bolt or two that we had to increase the size and some minor things and really proved our calculations. We even got so far as to, in our neighborhood, there's these crosswalks and they almost have a little ramp on both sides and then a tabletop, right? You're not supposed to jump them, but if you're going fast enough, you can. And I don't recommend it with 7 bikes and 20 pounds on each one of those because, you're going to do a lot of interesting things to racks in your vehicles and hitches and whatnot. Anyway, we proved our calculations. We knew what we had to do to tweak it to that final last time, and then we launched. That was back in back when we started in 2017. It was kind of prototyping ourselves, right, and getting things where we wanted them, and we had friends asking for them. We were welding them ourselves. We were taking them to a powder coater, and we love the prototyping thing. But once it becomes, we know this is dialed. Yeah. I don't want to make 3,000 of these, right? I don't want to make 300 of these. I want someone who can prove to me a good manufacturing process. So we locked down a manufacturer. We got that going. And then we launched at Outer Bike in 2019. So we had been selling to friends online and a couple close people. Well, we finally got our first load ready to go. We took all our friends and everybody who had one of our original welded racks, and we gave them our brand new, straight from the manufacturer, because we were able to upgrade a few things. That's when we added dampers. The dampers kind of allow it to slow assist back, right?
Yeah. I've been with a buddy that has one of your racks.
It's that is a key safety feature. A lot of racks out there will hinge, but you've got to have 2-3 guys holding it down.
Yeah, it's a lot of weight.
So we have a pinning system where we got a triple safe pin on the back so you can hinge without a problem. It's going to hinge with the dampers, and we built the internal release lever. So basically, when you go to hinge our rack, your hands, your fingers are nowhere close to moving mechanisms. You're up at eye level, pulling the release lever and stepping back and watching it hinge. And so these additional features of an internal release lever that auto engages when you push it back up, and dampers, and all these things came through our manufacturing process. And we, like I said, we launched at Outer Bike in 2019, and then COVID hit 3 months later. This is all a side hustle still at this point, right?
Yeah,
We're coming home. My wife was like, yeah, you get Tuesday nights and you get Saturday. And pretty much it turned into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, so every night of the week. And it got going fast. Soon after that, Outer Bike, we got going with NICA in Utah. So the high school cycling clubs race at NICA. It's really big. And we've got a lot of racks here in Utah. They helped launch us. And then we went to Sedona in the spring of 2020, which is, it literally, whisperings were happening while we were there. This is our second real show.
Yeah, I was at that one. Basically, we came home from Sedona and got locked down. That was like it. That was the last hurrah.
That was our first thing. And we're like, wow, now we're shut down in COVID. We're like, we got the day jobs. This is the night hustle. And it kept hustling us. And we've been working nonstop since, right? We've been doing this full time for it'll be 2 years this fall. So we were able to step out pretty quick and get our hands on the rein of the horses here, because we're moving fast and we're, so you're shipping. Anyway,
your first model was the 7-bike model.
Yeah, when we launched,
did you launch with all the different sizes?
No, we launched with a 5 and a 7. Our 5 and our 7, both with 10-inch spacing. So basically, they're exactly the same, except chop off the outer 2 baskets,
right?
And you've got it, right? We were toying with an expanding bar system, and it made too many janky little things to shake around. That we want a solid bar. We want our tire baskets locked in so they can't slide and move. They're fixed.
Yeah, so they're welded on there then. It's not like because I was going to ask that, like, why not just have the same thing and you can just order the extra baskets if you have the 5 or something like that? Or
yeah, and we thought long and hard about that. And I can show you the iterations in the garage where we had different mechanisms for it to adjust, slide it here and adjust it in. And the biggest thing we learned is if it's adjustable, you're going to spend your first setup getting it adjusted just right. And then you're going to leave it. Rarely are you going to change it. And so we're like, well, let's figure out how to lock it in the right position so people don't have to determine what that spacing is, and you can lock it in. And the other thing locking it in does is it doesn't leave things to slip and slide around and scratch up and mar up the powder coating and get all rusty. And also it stays a little more pristine, and things are locked. You're not going to move. We had a friend, he said, we had some things move when we were traveling down the road. They slid together and basically near destroyed a set of 5 bikes by the time they had gotten to location because they didn't realize their thing had shifted around. So we're like, oh, that really makes us want to lock these things down. So that did away with us trying to come up with, movable parts and accessories that extend. And it's like, we will sell, all our parts are interchangeable. So we've got our black post, and it'll take any one of our crossbars, and all of our tire baskets are interchangeable. So if you've got a 7, but you only need the 7 on one trip and you want a 3 the rest of the year, you can swap those out, talk with us, get an extra set of crossbars, and for, a couple $100, you've got multiple sized bike rack that is rock solid all the time.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So there's a way then to go from a 3 to a 5.
Yeah. It's pretty simple. Yeah.
Is it just like an upgrade kit of some sort, or like what's the cost look like? Let's just say I don't even know what does a 3 bike cost compared to a 7 bike cost?
Our 3 bike is $799, and our 7 bike is $985. So you basically got $800 and $1,000, and everything fits in between there.
Right.
So if you had a 7 bike rack and you're like, yeah, this thing is big, and yeah, I do need it for that one thing and this family trip. So you do need it a couple times a year. But when you're doing your cycling, you're like, you know what? It's just me and Bob and Jim, and we go riding, the 3 of us. So can I get a 3? Or oftentimes people call up and they'll get the 4. So basically, we'll just sell the red crossbars. So we have a vertical. There's 2 bars and a vertical post, right? So we sell that set crossbar depending on the size. Boy, off the top of my head, I want to say the crossbars for our biggest rack are right around 200. So our smaller ones are a little bit less.
So just say, for the sake of argument, it's like $200.
Yeah.
I mean, which is not, like, in my opinion, not much of a price to pay for like what you're getting out of it. So
yeah. And all it comes down to is you're going to undo 2 bolts on each crossbar. You're going to put the new crossbars on, lock them in with 2 bolts. And then 2 bolts on each tire basket, and you've got a different rack, and everything is 100% solid. Nothing's going to move because you've locked it in with nylon lock nuts, all torqued to spec, and you're ready to go. Right
on. What was one of the hardest things that you had to overcome when you guys first started?
You know, the craziest day we had. Well, there's been multiple.
I'm sure. Yeah.
The ups and downs of things are selling, things are not, crashing. One of the biggest things is we were working with another individual that had kind of pushed us in the direction of nailing down our manufacturer. And we had this guy, he was kind of our manufacturing guy. And he had given us some bids and we were pretty close. I was going to go see the factory. And like, literally the week before my trip, he literally dropped us flat. And we were like, wait a second, I don't have any contacts with manufacturers. And that put us in the dumps, right? Because we were ready to start gearing up. We had things a little more dialed in. And he just flat out dropped us. And we weren't sure what we had done.
Right.
We were
kind of like in the dark there.
Yeah, we were newbies, right? We knew we were onto something good, and we were asking lots of questions and whatnot. And I don't know if that kind of pushed them away. Like, these guys are going to try to cut me out, and I won't get my cut.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
As we look back on it, I did a lot of work that week and nailing down multiple manufacturers that I could go visit and get things figured out, and went and visited them and picked our manufacturer. And it was a lot of stress and sweat and trying to figure it out. But today I look back at that as one of the biggest blessings that we don't have a middleman that controls our manufacturing. We work directly with our contract manufacturer. We write the quality control checks. We see the checks. We're there. We can do everything we want with this manufacturer, who is wonderful for us. And then the other thing is, even with quality control steps and manufacturing, some things are going to get through. It comes down to customer support. And that's where our team really shines, is we love taking care of people. And if there is something that's not right, we take care of it. We stand behind it. We will swap out parts and whole racks if we need to. We typically don't really ever have to do that, but that's how you've got to stand behind your stuff and whatnot. So sorry,
no, we got plenty of time, man. But I think that spurs a good question then. So what's your warranty? Like, what does that say?
So if you look online, we list 2 years,
and
we'll take care of anything and everything. Obviously, everybody has a manufacturer's warranty. And if anything is out of the box wrong or is wrong at any point, we're going to take care of it.
Right.
But we've been going longer than 2 years, and there's not one person that we've denied that said, "Hey, I'm having a problem with this." We just take care of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, what we're saying is the 2 years is listed there, but we've supported people that are well beyond their 2 years with
Yeah.
free replacement parts. If
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
said, "Hey, this isn't working," and that's the thing with manufacturing, the way we go. There's little iterations where we've made things better along the way. Our
Mhm.
dampers on the system have gone through multiple iterations. They are much better than they were when they started. So we've swapped some original people out. We've done some things that aren't available on certain rack. Anyway, all these
Yeah.
little changes amount to a much nicer bike rack, and a lot of it's a millimeter here, a millimeter there, a slight bend here to make it better. And when people come back, if they have issues, we give them parts. A lot of people text, call, whatnot. They're like, "Hey, I need a replacement part, but I can't see how I can buy it on your website. Can I buy one?" And we're like, "No, you can't buy one. We're going to warranty that. We'll have it to you in the mail tomorrow. It'll be on its way." So
Yeah.
we're taking care of our rack owners. We want them to keep these racks a long time. They're built to last a long time, and they've got the support with us behind it.
Yeah, I would imagine this is the type of purchase that you get that essentially lasts almost a lifetime, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's the hope. I mean, current racks out there, there are many that are kind of like, I don't know how long they're going to last, but they turn into junk after I don't know how long. But
Yeah.
we're wanting our rack to be a long time purchase. We even have people that are like, "Hey, you know what? I love this. I love my 6 rack so much. I'm coming back to buy a 4 rack so I can have them on both cars." And so
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting how some people want multiple racks, which is great.
Yeah, I've been thinking about buying a new rack, and I mean, I've had my Thule rack for years, and I would say the only thing that has happened with that thing is that the way that bikes have changed, maybe they didn't have like the design ideas for how a bike could be like bigger in the future or something like that,
Yeah.
But for the most part, like that, the way that mine works, I got fortunate because when I bought mine, I was riding a lefty. So the model that I got would have been not necessarily the model that they were selling the most at the time.
Okay.
And so it still does. But I mean, I know there's a lot of other brands that didn't even like account for just like longer bars and stuff like that. I was just having a conversation, the same guy I was talking to before the show, and we were talking about a certain brand that every time I've been with anybody that has that brand on the car, if you put more than this many bikes on, like the handlebars are all smashing the seat and you can't like get them to fit in there right. And the way that your design is though, like it doesn't seem like that's a problem. And if the bike was longer, like maybe some of the bikes 5-10 years ago weren't as long as they are now, and they wouldn't fit on the trays or something like that. But with yours, the way it hangs, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, there's a couple. In fact, there's 2 things I want to tell you about the hanging. Right, you turn the bars, and so mountain bike bars parallel each other, and they get out of the way. Right,
Yeah.
they're not straight and mashed into each other. You turn them, and they're all parallel as you go, which is great. The 10-inch spacing. What that does when you turn the bar, the right lever can be potentially close to the top bar, the top tube of the bike to the right of it.
Mm-hmm.
So at 10-inch spacing, you need to load largest to smallest as you move to the right.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't load a small and then an XL because that XL is going to have the brake lever of that small bike to the left of it into the top tube. So you load 3 larges, you load a medium, your small, whatever it is. And as you're loading, you check, okay, do I have clearance? Great, I do. If I have 2 larges and they have some different geometries, switch the bike order and put the other one and check how it lines up with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And typically you're going to end up with a great solution. We talked about rubber bands. The rubber bands on those brake levers also help give more clearance on that top tube if needed. But as you load, you're checking to make sure nothing's gonna, because bikes are gonna kind of shimmy a little bit, and you don't want them touching, because if they're touching, that's gonna put a nice little scratch in your bike. And so load large to small, but that's where our 5X rack comes in. You can almost load any bike, any order, and you don't have to worry about it. And so that is a popular one of our racks. It's wide, it's 73 inches, but for shuttle companies to know, it doesn't matter who I pick up at the bottom of the hill. They're loading in the first slot. We're loading to the right. We're done. It's loaded. VelociRAX came from us in wanting to create a rather simple, speedy solution to load bikes. You don't need to take forever to do that. And that's what we're trying to create, is enjoy the ride and don't fear the headache of loading your bikes. Don't not take your bikes because you've got an hour of frustration and trying to get them on the rack. Know that you can load them quick.
It's really easy to use. I mean, the one that I used with a friend was like, it was really easy to use. And I'll tell you, I was very surprised with like how easy the articulation worked, because like my rack is, it has that ability to like kind of notch down. That way, if you had like a hatchback or something, you could open it up.
Oh yeah.
But it's like what you said earlier. I mean, if I pull that thing down and there's 4 bikes on there, that thing weighs a freaking ton. So first of all, you got to like be able to lift it up a little bit just to be able to get to pull the lever to make it go down.
Yep.
And then once it goes down, then you're like over there, you're like doing a deadlift to get the thing back up. And God forbid you weren't thinking about it coming down when you pulled it and it just smashes you in the shin or whatever. But
yeah, exactly. There's a lot of safety things we thought through, and that's the first thing you think about and everything. You don't want anybody getting hurt, but you need this to be functional and getting out of the way. So the moms that are driving carpool here to mountain bike practice know that they can help their boys and their girls load their bikes, get them to practice, and it doesn't take a guy like me or you to get their bikes there,
Yeah. No, it's super simple to use. That was definitely really impressive. Is there any reason that you wouldn't, or that you don't have just the 6 that's on the width of the 7? That way,
a little more spacing.
Yeah.
We've discussed that. There's a lot that comes into play when you consider how the bolts bind down and where you need tire bolts to hold the straps down, and the alignment of things. It comes in funny as you look at it in CAD. You can get 2 or 3 of them spaced out at 12-inch spacing, but then this one you can't, because it's got to line up with the bolts that are holding the thing together. And so there's a few other things that kind of factor in that you don't realize it till you're playing with it in CAD or in modeling and seeing how, if I move that one, the waterfall effect is these 2 baskets get the extra spacing, but this one can't and this one can't. And so it looked wonky. So we've kind of stayed with the spacing we've had. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess in my mind, like, I'm like, sometimes I'll have 6 people in my truck, but I wouldn't feel like I wanted a 7, because the 6 would be the exception. But in that case, I could always use the 5 and just throw the 6 bike in the bed of the truck.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And a lot of people they ask us, well, what should I get? And we're like, well, get the biggest you think you need. And think about, like, I like the fact that if I've got a 6 bike rack and I'm only taking 5 bikes, then at any given point, I can leave one of the baskets empty, and it kind of lets me put 2 in, take some extra space, and put 3 in. And so if you have a bike that's, you got all cross country, but here you have this downhill bike and the geometries just don't work, you can put your downhill bike a space and then all the cross country bikes, and so you get the extra freedom of
that extra space.
Or if you like to carry extra wheel sets, you can throw those in the top basket and just strap them down and carry an extra wheel or 2 if you don't want it in the vehicle.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some things that are nice about having 1 extra slot if you've got, if you're going a little bit bigger anyway,
Yeah, I think that the other end of it to me that was really like one of the reasons I was thinking about it is in my garage, I have most of my bikes hanging on the wall, like the one that you have behind you. So it's just like, how do I explain that? Parallel to the wall.
Yeah,
Like just
exactly.
hang. And I'm just trying to figure that for the people listening. And because of that, it's just hanging there like a picture frame. Like it takes up a lot of space, right?
Yeah.
Where the amount of bikes, and I have 2 mountain bikes, a gravel bike, a DJ, and then like my single speed ride around town and walk the dog bike,
Yeah.
And then the lady has a handful of bikes, and this is, at this point our kids are out of the house, so we don't have theirs to deal with too, but there's a lot of bikes in this garage. So like to be able to put them in a spot that actually takes up a lot less footprint, that would be nice,
Yeah. Yep. We've recently just launched what we call our tilt and pivot 4-bike rack. And it's literally a garage rack. You mount some rails along the wall and you put baskets into these rails at 1-inch spacing increments. So you can space them however you want. Your tires turn the same, just so your bars are bent, which means you can have parallel mountain bikes. But then these things rotate in and out according to the wall. So that spacing allows you to, one, get the spacing you want. Or our biggest problem was, hey, I have a 6-bike rack and I've got 6 bikes stored in my garage, but I'm leaving right now. I'm taking the rack and I'm only taking 2 bikes or 3 bikes, which means I'm leaving 4 that I'm just going to have to drop on the ground. And so this rack is engineered to fit in the same footprint, in that you can mount it to the wall, pivot all the baskets to the wall, and then mount your VelociRAX over top of it in the garage. Store your bikes in your VelociRAX. Now when you pull your bikes off, put them on your car, take them away. All you do is pivot these things out from the wall, and you've got a storage rack in the same footprint, so you're not taking up extra space, or it can be standalone on any wall anywhere. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. You're selling that now?
yeah, that's available on our website. You can see that.
That's really cool.
We sell some other little things, pedal racks, where you can literally, in fact, I've got one here. Let me.
I think I saw one of those. So that's where it just holds the pedal and then kind of like cants the bike against the wall that way, right?
Yeah. So these are little. I can get it out of the bag here and show you. This just grabs the pedal, and you can set your bike in the pedal. The thing that's novel about ours is it's a 2-piece setup, right? This piece goes against the wall. I figure out if I've got a big flat that I want in here, or if I have a smaller road bike pedal, I can neck this down, which basically, instead of your bike tilting way out, you can pull your bike a little further back if you want. That's nice because it's small, it's cheap, it's little. You can put it in a studio apartment or anywhere and store one bike, kind of like we got going there behind me.
Yeah. How much do those things run?
These are 20. They're either $25, $29, somewhere right in the 20s.
Yeah, and I've seen with those as well, like you can kind of stack the bikes a little tighter as well, because you can put the one above it, let's just say, like in behind the one that's lower, right?
Yeah, you can stack them. It does take some height.
Yeah.
What we typically end up doing is here in Utah, we do have some fat bikes, and we'll ride on snow in the winter. And I like riding the fat bike just around the neighborhood, the walk the dog bike, because you got these monster 5-inch tires that just sound like you're riding a monster truck.
Yeah.
And I'll do that as I ride around here. But in the summer, we put them above our VelociRAX up high, where it's a little harder to get to, and just kind of stow them up and out of the way. And then all the bikes are down below that we're accessing a little more frequently. So
yeah, that reminds me. So fat tires fit in there as well. How big of a fat tire can you put in?
You bet. So our standard basket will take anything from a road. I've put a 23cc all the way up to a standard 3+, so maybe a 3.1. You'll get in our standard basket, right? So 20-inch BMX to a 29er, from a 23C road bike all the way to a a 3.1 mountain bike tire. Anything bigger than that, you're not going to get it in and be able to turn your bars and strap it down. So we have another accessory. We call it our fat bike tire basket, right? It'll take up to a 5-inch tire. It looks the same. It's just got a little wider of a C-hoop shape on it. So you can put up to a 5.0 in it.
Wow. So what was the largest size on the normal rack?
3.1.
That's a really big tire.
That's a big tire, exactly.
Yeah. And I think you don't see a lot of people. I mean, even the plus tires are already starting to kind of fade.
There are a lot of people that are, the e-bike craze is really cruising. And you'll have a lot of these e-bikes that'll have a fatter tire. A lot of them could be around a 4-incher. What we'll find is, and this is where I'll mention right now, is a lot of them, if they're not, a full mountain bike, you're ready to go romping through the forest type bike. If it's just like a cruiser, they'll have a fender over that front tire, and they'll have a fender over the back tire. The fender over the back tire doesn't matter, and that'll keep you from getting rooster-tailed if you're, riding in water. But the front tire fender, if it covers, a quarter of the tire, that's the part of the rack that's going to grab the tire. So that doesn't work with our rack. You're going to have to remove that fender so you can strap it down. Otherwise, you're crushing your fender as you're strapping it down. And anyway, so the front fender on some of these cruisers, on e-bikes, that type of thing, the short little stubby plastic ones that are cut out on a standard bike to just keep some of the mud off the stanchion tubes, those work fine. But once they're a little bit longer, they do need to be removed. So
yeah, that makes sense. What about security? How do you guys have anything built in for that, or is it just like
no, that's a great question. We do have a couple options. We started by offering just a cable, right? We have a 15-foot cable which can run through, I'll usually run it through the bottom triangle and the rear tire and strap it back to the rack. Depending on how many bikes and what you're trying to get, you'll strap it to the rack. You can go down and lock it to your where your toe chains would go if you'd like. But that cable, we've got the biggest, I think it's the biggest. It's almost a 1/2-inch diameter cable that has a thin little rubber sheath, kind of the sheath you're used to on the cables.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we launched with a really stout cable, and then we knew all along we planned on putting locks in that top tube, and so we have an integrated locking system where there's two cables. If you've got the bar, these cables rest inside of each other, and then they'll pull out to the extent of the bar, and then you push them back in, so they can come out and around and lock into the rack. Originally, we had built these in our very first prototypes, and the trick just becomes kind of the sliding it in under all the bolts that are holding everything together. And so you'll notice even from day one, the way our bolting system on our bar was planned, we knew we were doing this. It just took a little while to get out of the gate. So if you were to purchase our locking kit, if you already had a rack, and they are compatible with any of our racks out there, I guess, except the 3. The 3 isn't wide enough that when you pull the cables out, they just don't do much. They can't get around far enough. The cable's not long enough. So from our 4 rack and up, you're going to pop off the end caps off both ends of your rack, and you're going to slide this cartridge in that has these cables and tubes that everything works with. And then you're going to put in 2 new end caps, and there's sliding doors that clip shut and open. And so you'll slide open the door, pull the cable out of both sides, or if you only need one, anyway, you'll pull the cable out, lock your bikes up. And again, that's all built in. So it's contained there. It comes with a little 4-digit combo lock. The big thing to note is with these integrated locks, the cable is smaller, but even with our big beefy near half inch cable lock, cables are cables. And if you've got someone that's wanting your bike, it doesn't take but a few seconds to get those
Yeah,
cables.
yeah. Grinder will go through pretty much anything really quick. So
Oh, yeah, these battery powered grinders, you can cut it in a matter of seconds. People are always like, well, bolt cutters. They're not using bolt cutters. They're using grinders,
yeah.
and it's done like that. So take your bikes in your hotel, lock them up when you're running in for 2 minutes to the store and coming back. But
Yeah, they're really just to keep honest people honest. That's the way that I look at it.
totally
It's
agree.
like even whenever I had a ratchet strap that I would put over my bikes and when I'd be like having them in the tailgate, and it just had some little wires and a lock in it. And it was really just to like stop somebody from running up and just grabbing it and going, you know what I mean? Because as far as any kind of criminal goes, the ones that are really interested in stealing bikes like that, you're not stopping them. I mean, you could get on YouTube and watch hours of videos of guys like cracking like those big U-bolt locks and like all of them. They're like every way, even your freaking front door, like the deadbolts. These guys will be like, look, this is how you just walk up and walk right in. And so yeah, you're keeping as many of the honest people honest, and outside of that, if you really want to be like on top of it, you're gonna have to do a little bit more. So yeah, somebody in the comments even mentioned in Southern California, people just running up and grabbing bikes off of cars or trucks at red lights. I've heard that happen in Santa Cruz too.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that'll be like shuttling in UC area, Santa Cruz, and I've heard of people just being at a red light in traffic. So it's not like you can't like chase after the person. Somebody just runs up, grabs a bike off your tailgate and splits. Like, what are you gonna do? You know?
Yeah, ours are strapped down, so it might take him a few seconds longer to get them unhooked, but you got to know to that's maddening. What can you do, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You know, I had a friend that was he worked for like like repossessing cars, you know, so he would like go and like tow them and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so he knew how to like use those picks and stuff like that to unlock locks. And he came over to my house and walked in my front door like just to show me like as fast as I could with the key. Like he just walked up to the door, stuck it in, spun it around, and walked right in the door. Right, like it was so fast that it completely like made me lose all confidence and security of my of anything in my life. You know what I mean? Where I was like, if somebody has the right experience, like there's no stopping them.
Yeah, you're keeping honest people honest, but so be careful with bikes. We pay a lot for them, and you don't want them to walk away. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I was saying earlier, I mean, this is something that most people are probably going to buy once and probably not have to buy again for a very long time. So, how is it that you like get? I don't know how you'd say like repeat customer. Like there's only so many people who are going to buy racks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, I mean, and obviously there's, you know, new people coming to age or whatever that would be buying. So is there like some other products that you have in mind that you guys are working on that are kind of like a little bit outside of the space, but kind of still there? Or
yeah, we've got some other things going. Obviously, we've talked about a handful of our stuff that came after we launched that are kind of accessorizing our current rack. We run surveys with our customers and throw out ideas of, you know, what products do you need? Do you want next? What do you want out of your rack? A lot of people want, you know, kind of a tune station, a way to clamp their seat tube and tune their bike. And while I'm on that front, the other thing that's nice about our rack is you can take your seat, hook it in the tire basket. So again, I'm taking the seat like you would at any race where you normally set your seat on a bar, right? Your seat
like
sits
pole,
on
right?
it.
Yeah.
Put your seat into the tire basket, strap your front tire to the bottom mount, and now you've got a makeshift tune station so you can oil your chain and kind of adjust your shifting. So that's something you can do without even needing that. So we're talking on that. Do we need to do anything there? I mean, I think a lot of people would like that. Personally, myself at my house, I don't have a big garage, and I do have a tune station, right? I've got a little stand.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's down at our shop. And I'm like, if I had something that clicked onto my rack, it would be nice and easy and handy. And so that's something we're talking about. There's a couple other stands and things we're working on. Some of them I can't share the full details.
Yeah. Totally. I understand.
We don't like doing things that have already been done, right? We like doing things different. We've got a couple ideas. We're looking at some stuff in potentially other industries as well that still kind of ties into this and might crossbreed into other areas. Technology that we develop here can be used here.
I would imagine that you would have some, like maybe some kind of moto thing that you guys could do or something like that.
Yeah, I was even suggesting that. A bunch of our employees are big into motocross. They were big Nike racers and they're still big into riding bikes, but they do ride motocross a lot. And so there's some things we've talked about, things we're, kind of in varying phases of what can we do to get into different industries, and then what can we do to add on to the great customer base we have. Because you're right, if I sold you a rack, you're not going to be coming back buying a rack for a long time. But I can tell you one thing. I want to say every one of our customers has sold a rack to their neighbor, which is happening every day. I get people approaching me at a gas station like, hey, where'd you get that rack? I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah, totally. I think that would there be a possibility that you guys would look at doing like a roof rack of some sort that maybe is not a hanging thing, but like still just in the rack space, but kind of putting your own spin to it? Or
we could. We've talked on varying things. We've never really nailed anything in that area down. Roof racks no one likes lifting their bikes up there if they can help it.
Yeah.
So I think it's got to be figured out, a way to make it a little more. Anyway, yeah, we haven't. I wish we had a bigger development team. We're working on that to get things out quicker, because it takes time to develop a product, to build a prototype, to iterate that physical prototype, to go back to the drawings, to iterate, to build, to test, to then prove. Now, how do we manufacture this too, right? That final stage of, we got to manufacture this such that it's repeatable. And the last challenge of, it's got to fit in a box that can be shipped, right? That's one of the hard things with our racks is they are big and they take a little bit to ship. And so there's a lot of things you got to think about as you build products. Do people want it after you go through all these cycles of trying to prove it?
So you said earlier that the 7 bike rack was around $1,000. So then how's shipping go? Then you got to pay another couple $100 on shipping on top of it, or is that?
Shipping's anywhere from $90 to $130. We're trying to negotiate better rates. We're trying to take over that and really drive that cost down, because we're not out there to make money on shipping. I mean, I think a lot of people nowadays expect free shipping, right? We're used to Amazon. It's like, why is it shipping free? It's like, well, number one, we have people that'll drive all over this country to where we're located and pick it up to save on shipping. They plan their family vacation through to grab a rack. And so that benefits, they don't have to pay for shipping, but it's transparent, right? I'm not marking up my rack and then hiding the shipping. Cost. We're dealing at actuals and trying to just, in fact, in most cases, we're probably losing a little bit on everything we ship, because we don't want to make money on shipping. We want to run a business that makes a great bike rack and that we can make our profit there. And we'll let UPS run their business on shipping. And it's fun dealing with shippers, but it is effort to ship. And we're working on, potentially getting a shipper out east so we can have east and west and deliver quicker to everybody. There's all these things we're trying to do to drive that cost down.
Yeah. That's crazy to think about. It's like, these are all things that, as in a business that you're in, that you think about, but as a consumer, you're just like, whatever, man, Amazon gets everything here in 2 days. Why can't you? And for
Yeah,
free.
exactly.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it is what it is. Like, I totally understand. I mean, so as it is right now, how do people buy them? Is it only through your website or?
Yeah, so you can go right onto our website at VelociRAX.com, and you can see pictures, you can see our instructions, our manuals, our videos on how to use it. And then it's an e-commerce site, right? It's ready for you to look at our product, put it in your cart, purchase it, and check it out. Check out, right? So it'll take your credit card, process it. What happens from there is we see that instantly, and it's right into our shipping management software, and typically within 24 hours. So if you ordered now, I guess it's a holiday weekend on Friday afternoon, it's not going to ship till Tuesday. But typically you order on Wednesday, it's going to ship on Thursday. It's typically next day. It's into our system, and it is like clockwork. Some people will purchase a rack and then in the middle of the night send an email, hey, I want to change. I want to upgrade to the 6 after all. And so at that point, we're like, oh shoot, how do I stop this train that's efficiently running down the tracks, pop out a box and get it going to that individual? So that happens occasionally, and it's always like, oh, has it already shipped? Because we're putting so many things onto a truck, it's like I don't even know where it is in the truck. There's pallets of stuff I've got to go through to find that. And so know that we do aim to ship within 24 hours, business hours. So weekends are an exception. And oftentimes we can pull it and come up with ways to adjust shipments. But yeah, we try to be quick in getting people their racks now that we've been able to maintain a stock. When we talk about other areas of the world, right now in Canada, we're a little bit behind, but we got a big push in shipping going next week, and hopefully we can keep our stuff in stock there and not run out like we had been this last few weeks.
So are you just shipping to like Canada and like Mexico, or is like internationally anywhere as long as somebody wants to pay for it?
We have shipped internationally out of our location here in Utah to almost anywhere. Now, if people are willing to pay for it, right? When you buy a rack at $800, $900, $1,000 and it costs $700-800 to ship to you,
right?
Not many people want to do that, but we've shipped to the UK, to Norway, to a couple places in Europe. We do have fulfillment services in Canada. So we have if you were on our website, you would see our Canadian store, and you could literally buy in Canada and it ships out of Vancouver.
Oh, cool.
Langley. And then we also have services in Australia too, where we ship out of Melbourne. You can pick up at those locations. But again, they're not our warehouse. It's a 3PL. And so we can't assemble it for you there. You can pick it up in boxes. So you're saving yourself shipping, but Australia's got us, Canada's got us. And we're all across the US, and then we'll ship occasionally to some outliers if people want them. And we're working on,
Did you say areas. Australia? Is that what you said?
Yeah, we're in Australia. Yep.
Wow. Cause I know that one for shipping is like just ridiculous. Even for me, like sending some of my merch to people, it'll be like, this is a complete, like I'm probably giving them money whenever they buy something.
I know how that feels. It's like some of these things. But yeah, we have a 3PL service down there. And so we just ship bucket loads of product. They house it in their warehouse. When we get an order on our website, they slap labels on it and have the truck pick it up. So it's not coming from America. It's indirectly, right? It's already there waiting for their order.
Yeah. That's rad. So what, I always like to ask people where you came up with the name. Like I made the thumbnail with the VelociRaptor, and I made some.
Yeah. They showed me that. And it's funny. We've talked about that because everybody on our team, VelociRAX, it sounds like Ford's, the Raptor, right? And it's just, it seems like a dinosaur. We really, we do a lot of jeeping in southern Utah, and so we'll take our rock crawlers down there. And on one of these trips, we're using radios, but I decided I'd ride with my brother, and the conversation we had this 4-hour drive to get there, and then the rock crawling we were doing that day to name our company. And we had kids, and we listed off everything under the sun. We had physical locations like mountains and cliffs, and think of all those types of geographical names that we had looked through. We talked through animals as kind of a motif, and all these different ideas to kind of come up with ideas. And something we always wanted to embody was the speed of being able to do something quickly. And velocity really turned into velocity with a rack and kind of that combo. And so dinosaurs never really came into play in that decision, and we've really never really gone down that path. I don't know how we had a handful that kind of made it through the 2-page list, and then you start Googling and you see, oh, that's already being used and that's being used, and what can I try to register? And it kind of, I can't remember the final couple that we were kind of arguing about, or not arguing, but really
having conversations.
But we came down to the end of this. Just seemed right because our racks they're meant to load fast, right? It's not spend 2 hours loading your bikes and 1 hour riding. It's like spend 2 minutes loading your bikes. Spend a minute unloading them, but spend the most of the time on your bike. And so that's where we came up with, is just, we're talking about speed and efficiency, and then that's what we went for.
Yeah. No, I figured it, like when you said it had nothing to do with the dinosaur, my mind went to velocity. So I'm glad I was on the right page there. You guys should just embrace the dinosaur though, and just make him he could be your Geico lizard, right?
We've got a lot of stuff from the team that's like, they've showed us little video clips and things we can do, and we'll probably play with that somewhere and come out with something, but because it's fun, right? Dinosaurs are tough and strong, as our rack is, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. So, where do you want to see this go? Like, do you want to see this, like, you guys be like sitting in REI? Do you want to see it just always being like direct to consumer?
That's a great question, because we've talked, and we have bike shops. We've had all sorts of big companies. We've had Walmart approach us, Jensen USA, a lot of these online places that want to carry our racks. And at the time we were like, we have a hard time keeping up with our own stuff, let alone what you're going to do to us. And we've really amped up our production, and it's going. And I'm like, but we can deliver. We live in a world that kind of expects to ship stuff, right? And so we've really moved away. And I think, I can't remember where I saw the statistic with COVID back in 2020, so many people moved to online purchasing. It's like, yes, there's a place for a brick and mortar store. You've got to have a place for people to build and assemble and package and ship and do that type of stuff. But are we becoming more efficient in our lives with being able to just, everything's housed at a central location or a few locations, and you order and it ships? And so we've talked to a lot of people, and we've done some simpler reseller solutions, which we don't have a wholesale solution. And our resale solution, in a couple cases that we've done it, the margin's not really high, right? Because
you guys have already set your margin for direct to consumer. So if you sell it to Walmart, you're either raising the price or you're lowering your cut.
Exactly. And that's where we didn't want to go. We wanted to keep these as affordable as possible. And I get that these racks are expensive. I get that. Yeah. When you compare them to the racks that are really doing this good of a job, they're kind of all in this price range, or even higher in a lot of cases.
I think even mine that I bought years ago, if I really, because Thule has a funny way of like tricking you into spending a lot more money. It's like, oh, you buy the rack, and then you need to buy the 4 bike pieces because this is just the rack part, or
Yeah.
like, or something like that,
You
it's
get
like,
two, now you got to buy bike 3 and bike 4. And that's
yeah,
another
and next thing
$200
you know,
each.
you're in for a couple $100 more, and you're like, son of a gun, they just tricked me, I thought I was
Yeah.
getting, and so
And
I think there is something to say though for being able to go and like touch something and see it,
that's our the hardest point we have to overcome. So we've kind of stayed with, we like the lower price point because we've got to have enough money to keep the company going, to offer great
Right.
customer service. And so we've kind of said, we're going to stick with this, direct to consumer mentality and give people the opportunity to buy from it. It becomes a marketing thing. And if we've done all the work to market it and we're handing the middleman a bunch of the money along the way, then we've got to raise our prices. And now people, they're not as desired as much. Anyway, there's a whole million things to play there. And that's where we've decided we'll stay with, customer direct. And obviously we're open. We're always reevaluating and seeing what's the best option. Could we be in stores in the future at some point? Maybe. With the way kind of the system, the world is with shipping right now, we're going to stick with it and keep our prices low. And we try to, we're trying to come up with a great solution of, you sell your rack to your neighbor, sell our rack to your neighbor. We'll send you a t-shirt, a hoodie, a hat, give you some perk. We're trying to come up with a method of how do we do that? Because when you think of the sales force you have out there that's got your rack, I just need a system to help do that, right? Because I don't want to send a million emails to people. Oh, you did it. Okay, here's your hoodie or whatever it is. A way to help our mobile people that are using our rack help us sell them, because they really do. It's funny. You look at our heat map, you'll see a rack be sold into a neighborhood or an area, and pretty soon you'll see a few people start purchasing around that area because it's visual, it's seen. They realize the value in what they've got, and it just starts happening. So that's probably the big jump for us, is how do we better do that? Use our customers to help sell.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to keep the price low, it's tough because you're looking at, then maybe the retailers get the shit end of the deal because people just come in and look at them, then they order it online.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, and then on the other hand, it's like, if you give too much away to the people that are like current owners selling them, then like maybe you're just getting worked at some point. Like they're like, oh yeah, I sold this one and this one. And it's really just like some, guy kind of working the system or whatever. But it's tough. I can understand the mental dilemma that you're in there. And I think if it was me, I would probably just like keep doing what you're doing, and the right answer will come to you when it's right. You know what I mean?
It usually works out that way. You kind of evolve as you go, and you've got to be ready for change, and you got to be ready to switch when you realize things aren't working. And we'll keep going like we are, So,
So is your stuff all made in the U.S., or are you guys like getting it made overseas?
Yeah, we are manufacturing overseas now, and that comes in real handy when we're trying to get stuff into, Australia, New Zealand,
So
Canada,
you just ship
whatnot.
from there then to
We ship direct. We found a really good manufacturer. We're really in control of everything to nail this stuff down, and they've been wonderful in helping us really perfect and drive a beautiful, solid, quality built product.
So you guys launched right when COVID started, which, I mean, I think initially, like everybody in the industry was like, oh man, we're screwed. But then next thing you know, people are buying bikes like there's no tomorrow, and everybody's happy. And then all of a sudden shipping just goes to shit. So like, were you guys pretty affected by that, or like with raw materials and stuff like that?
We were, and we didn't even know what to think at the time, right? We were still in our day jobs. The side hustle was here, and we were like, we wanted to see it go somewhere, right? So we were working it hard, and all of a sudden we turned around, and I can't remember, it was February or March. It was like all the inventory we had was gone. We're like, how do we keep selling this, right? And so it was, let's offer pre-sale products. And it was like, we would try to promise a date, right? We'd go, okay, we've got this, it's coming, it's going to be here on this date, we can deliver it by that date. And we'd say, here it is, you can buy this now at this price, and this is the target that it'll get to you. And for a while that's worked great. The hard part of doing that is you don't know how bad the port is going to be messed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stuff can take forever to get to you, and stuff can get to you really quick. And there has been some pretty big jam ups, and we're kind of through that now. We've been fortunate to be able to, while we were doing pre-sales last year, we finally got ahead of it to where we could order and get a bunch of inventory here. So we have inventory now, and the inventory that's en route will come to our warehouse before we run out of stock on the next thing. So it's a trying to play that just in time type mentality of, I think I'm going to run out about this time, so I need to have more product get here before there. And it's a guessing game that I don't know if you can ever get good at it. We might be a slightly better, and we have more inventory. We kind of bombed it in Canada this spring, but we're just about caught back up. And so it's a game you constantly play and evaluate. So, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun with all the shipping fiascos, trying to keep things in stock and moving.
Yeah. I can only imagine. So, what's one of your like favorite customer stories that you have? Because I know with me, I'll let you think about it. I'll just ramble while you're thinking about it. I know with me, like, it's always surprising to me some of the stories that people reach back out and say, because your video XYZ and it changed this or it did that or we had this circumstance. Did you have anybody tell you just something that like blew your mind where you're like, what?
Yeah, there's two. I'll tell you. So this has happened to me personally, and I've had multiple people. You'll be driving down the highway, headed to wherever, right? You got your bikes loaded up, and the car passing you literally stops side by side. You see them take a picture out their window of the rack, and then they admire for a minute and drive on by. But probably the best one, and I don't know the validity of this story. A customer told this to me, but he said, I was going somewhere, and literally I had an officer pull me over to ask me about the bike rack.
Oh, nice.
And anyway, then on he went. And that's one thing we like to do. We do like to support our military and armed forces, active and veterans, our first responders, with discounts. So if they reach out to us, we just like, we like some sort of proof that they are who they say they are, and we'll send them promo codes and let them purchase at a discount to support them and their efforts in protecting us. So we really appreciate all the help from
that's awesome.
All those that serve us.
I'm a veteran, and if you asked me when I was 20 if I gave a shit about that, I would say no. But as a guy in his 40s, it actually means a lot to me when I hear a company that does that,
Well, and it's, to me, I didn't take the opportunity to serve, and I look at guys like you, and I just cherish your service, right? We live in the land of the free and the home of the brave, and it's because of guys like you that have kept us who we are here in America. So I appreciate your service. Thank you.
Oh yeah, well, thank you, man. That definitely wasn't fishing for that, but I'll take it. I'll take it in the discount too. So, what's on the horizon? Where you think like just trying to like keep your head above water while this thing's blowing up? Or
we're building a team that really we're trying to build the team that can support the processes we got going. And I think we got that going pretty well. We're really lining up, trying to come up with some new products to really stuff the product line, and we're looking at new areas in the world to launch our products to keep kind of the global the global expansion going as well. And so from a global front and a new product front and really hitting it hard with great products and great customer support, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. I can understand. How big's your team at this point?
So we've got about 10 of us.
Oh, wow, man. You guys are really like, there's
Yeah.
a bunch of you there.
There's a lot of stuff that's got to happen when it comes to customer support, when it comes to shipping. And we do have, a handful of shippers around the world that actually label the boxes and send them out, and keeping all that organized and going. It takes a team of people to respond to the emails and phone calls.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, it's funny, even at our local place here in Lehigh, like today around lunch, I was like, we don't have the office built off to where I can shut myself and be in a quiet little room. And we had, I want to say we had 4 or 5 customers. There was one that had a bunch of kids and it was just noisy. I'm like, I better get somewhere else for this call or Robert's going to hate me.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
The main reason I ask that is I think a lot of times that people see a company or they go to a website that they don't realize how small it is, especially in the bike industry. Like with the exception of like some of the big names, there's other brands out there. Like for example, like Cali, that their protective gear that I wear, like they're not a huge company. But you go to the bike shop, you see a fancy box and a nice product, and you just assume that this big thing, and it's not.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I really like appreciate about this podcast is it gives people the ability to like really like put it together. Like, hey, you buy this rack, you're like feeding this dude's family. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, here I am, a co-founder of this company, and the way our phone systems work, I'm still in the phone tree most of the time. I've tried to put myself further down there, but if we have 3, 4 guys on the phone, chances are I might be the guy picking up the phone just because we don't want people to wait.
Right.
I'll admit we can't get them all the time because the day when we had all these customers in, the phones were ringing, 3, 4 people on the phone. I was getting phone calls, and I love talking with customers because you hear these fun stories about, hey, my neighbor this and my son that, and can you help me here? I love talking with people, so I don't mind doing that. I do have some initiatives and things I'm trying to build, and it's hard when you're interrupted every 5 minutes, which I'm not now because I have a few more people ahead of me on the phone tree. But it's fun to get on the phone. It's fun to talk face to face. I get a lot of customers. In fact, I sent a notice out to a bunch of customers in Canada saying, hey, we've been slightly delayed, but it's here and it's coming, and this is what we're thinking about, just to let them know we made promises. We're still trying to hit it, but it's a little slower than we thought. And I'd have people responding saying, hey, I didn't think the president of the company would, send a response out like this. Thanks for letting me know. It's like we try to be as transparent as we can. We like to treat people like they're people. We are a small company, and we do our darndest to make you not have to wait and respond as quick as we can.
Yeah. No, those are good virtues, man. I mean, at the end of the day, you need 2 things, right? You need to have a good product, and you need to have good customer service, because if your customer service sucks, your product's not gonna sell.
Exactly.
And if you have a crappy product, then it doesn't matter if you have good customer service or not, right? So with that being said, how about, is there anything that you would have done differently now looking back on it? Like, man, I wish I would have known to not start with the shipper guy, or I wish I would have reached out to some guy about boxes sooner because I didn't know I could be saving like $50,000 for that,
I think I don't know if I have anything profound there. I think I've learned you can't do everything yourself. You need to get professionals involved that do their thing, and they do their thing better than you. And it's hard when you're bootstrapping a company to realize I'm going to have to spend thousands of dollars with an accounting firm and a legal team and all this stuff. And it's like, for the first little bit, you're okay kind of lifting it yourself, but you got to get those people involved with you sooner.
Yeah.
So don't delay on getting getting professionals involved that can help you. Don't think you need to do it, but do what you do best so you can focus on what you do best, and let the other people be at proficient at keeping your payments to Uncle Sam legit, and keeping everything honest with governments and sales tax. And that's probably the biggest headache of our life, is dealing with sales tax and all the different places that you get to do that.
Right. And then there's probably different like rules and standards of like what has to be written on a box in some country compared to another.
Yeah, exactly. There's a ton of that, and you got to have people helping you do that. So that's probably my biggest thing, is get those people involved as soon as you can. Invest in doing it right.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of things like that whenever you're starting a business. That I know, as I do IT for my day job, and I worked for some smaller companies, and it was always very hard. You could see where some of these companies, they're like, wait a minute, I got to pay this much, but like right now everything's fine. And it's like, yeah, you're lucky everything's fine right now.
Exactly.
Like I can see this. It's like there's a fire like smoldering in your back room that you don't know about.
Exactly.
And if it goes off, you're going to be screwed, So
yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, did you always have like this urge inside of you to create things, or did like would if we were to tell you 10 years ago that you would be an inventor, like you would invent something that didn't exist, would you have believed that?
You know what? This comes down to, my brother has more of that, wanting to be the inventor. I have a little bit of that, but I had a little bit. I lived in Asia. I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Hong Kong. I speak Chinese, and I was there for multiple years and got to enjoy the culture over there. Yeah. And I remember getting on the plane to come home going, I loved it here. How can I be involved? And so I always had this desire for international business, that kind of end of things, and wanting to go back. And when I left, looking out the window thinking, I don't know when I'm going to be back here next. And it's been 20 plus years, but I'm back there and working and speaking the language, and love to go back over there and live more, live there again, if given the opportunity. And so I've always had a little bit of that inventor thing, but my brother really has that desire of, and this is him, his name's Blake. You could end up talking to him if you walk in the door. We don't like to do things that other people have done. Sometimes people have done it good, but it's like, we got to show how to people to do this better. We like coming up with a way to do it different, to make it better in a way that it's not like, I mean, a bike's going to have a round tire. You're not going to invent a different type of shape of a wheel, right? But there's kind of these things of, how can I do that? But here's my parameters of what I want to do, and how can I make it better than that, but still meet all these needs? And that's where we started with, this has to work in the garage. It has to work in my car. It has to haul multiple bikes. And it took a long time for us to dial that in with the bike rack. And we've got a few more things coming with it that if it can get through our pipeline of scrutiny from is it manufacturable? Is it 100% safe? Is it shippable? Is it sellable? Now that we've got it built, are people really willing to pay $100 or $400 or whatever the price has to be for that item? That kind of that inventor wheel, right? You have to get all those things aligned for that to work. And then
I've always, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, and then there's people want you to get patents on top of that. And I know people that have patents, but don't have a product that's sellable. So the patent's worthless. And it's like, now we're trying to get patents, and they're coming, and that's moving along. It just takes forever, but it's like, there's just so many things that have to align to really be able to be that inventor that can really sit down and work away at something and go, are people going to like this? Is it going to work? Is it going to solve the problem? Is it going to be manufacturable? Is it going to be shippable? Is it going to be sellable? It's a fun game to play.
I've had a lot of ideas in my life about things that I thought would be really handy, and then later saw somebody else make them. So
Yep.
I feel like I've always had that kind of part to me, but I've never really considered myself somebody that wanted to invent something as much as I want to have some kind of my own business, to like just to be my own boss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's really like, to me, where it's like, I don't know, it's just I think that it's really cool that you're in charge of like your life that way, you know, like
Yeah.
like you're creating something, you're providing something to people, you're like, at the end of the day, you're responsible for yourself, and you don't have anybody else like trying to tell you what you're supposed to do or anything. And it's not like I have some like horrible people that are managing me or anything like that. I just I like the idea of the freedom, you know?
Yeah. And that is fun. It's really nice to know I get up and I'm like, what am I going to do at work today? You
Yeah.
know, and I know all the problems I'm trying to solve and the things I'm working on, but usually it's the inbox and a few of those things that are not on fire, but like, hey, we need to take care of this, and I got to answer that question. And there's just the gears that got to grind, and then there's the new developments that you got to take place. And this team behind us, we give them a lot of autonomy too to crank their stuff out. And they're better at us than, you know. I'm not a social media guy. I don't run our social media channels. We have teams that do this because they're good at it, and we just let them run with it. And sometimes we look at them and wonder what they're doing, but they're having fun doing it. And that's what we try to do at our office. I told you, like last week, we signed everybody up that was willing, and 9 of us went down and competed in a triathlon. Some of us had done them before and some of us hadn't. And at the end of the day, we were glad when it was done, and the pain during, I guess it was worth it, you know? So
Right. That's rad. That's super rad. So we're getting pretty close here to wrapping this up. Do you watch YouTube other than
I do
or you do
a little bit? Like, I'll watch a lot of the fails and some biking videos. And
so I always ask people what their favorite channel is, or if they have something in particular that they like to watch, because I think it's interesting, and you'll hear some wild ones. I always bring up, there was one of the guests that told me about this channel called Cart Narcs, and it's basically just this guy that like hassles people that don't put their carts back in the rack. And it's hilarious, but it's like I would have never heard of that if it wouldn't have been for some person.
So I do watch a little bit. Most of the time it's either the news is on and we're just kind of getting out as dinner's getting ready, or my son will my oldest son at home is my third child. He'll be a senior this coming year. There's a couple the funny jokesters that we watch. But he got me hooked on one thing, and what's the name of the channel? Don't shoot me, people, for not getting it. I want to call it like Blacktail Studio, or
what do they do?
They build wood tables, right? So they take these huge slabs of wood, and they make these elaborate epoxy tables. These tables that cost $10,000-$15,000. Like someday maybe you'll be sitting in front of one of these really nice desks, right? So it's a whole slab of a tree, and you've got rough edges and you got epoxy that fills out, and just the guy's painstaking efforts to plane it down smooth as can be, and then build in epoxy and build these amazing pieces of furniture. So that's one that I've got sucked into, because I do like building things. I don't like
funny. That reminds me, like stuff like that is really like, I don't know why, but it's capturing to watch. There's a guy's channel that somebody told me about. I want to say he like just like reshoes horses on his channel. And it's like so many people are like, dude, I don't know how I got stuck, but I watched like 2 hours of this guy like doing these horses' shoes, you know?
Yep. And that's what my son got me stuck on. The other thing that I got stuck on, and you're going to laugh, I think it was like a 1-season episode. It's called Super Ships, right? And my kids tease me, but they went out and they filmed all these episodes. They're about an hour-long episode on, one's on a cruise liner, and how amazing it is that they can put 5,000 people on and off, and all the food and all the stuff that they've got to do on a cruise ship in the course of their docks for a day, and just that. And then there's other ships that are amazing because they go out and they repair the cables that are at the bottom of the ocean when something gets wrong, or there's a research vessel or a container ship that's bringing, containers back and forth. And there's just all these different amazing ships that
I feel like I could get sucked into that. I mean, I'm one of those guys that, like, I know where the History Channel is, the Discovery
yeah.
And then that's about all I know. It's like, if there's nothing on those two channels, I'm not watching anything.
That's how it kind of goes for me. I'm out riding a bike or getting ready to go to bed while I catch 15 minutes of this or that. So I don't do a ton of watching, but those shows have kind of sucked me in.
Right on, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out and chat with us for the last 2 hours, and it's been great. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add that we didn't talk about. Something.
No, I think we've hit a lot of the things. It's hard to remember what we've talked about, but yeah, love being on the show. Love creating noise in the cycling industry. We're glad to be a part of it, and wonderful to be on your show. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Like I said, definitely appreciate what you're doing. I think that if anybody out there hasn't been to their website, go check it out, VelociRAX.com. So it's VelociRAX. So not CKS, RAX.com. So VelociRAX.com. Go check them out. Take a look at their stuff. It's like I said throughout the show, I've definitely used one on my friend's vehicle and was really impressed with the build quality and how everything worked. So reaching out to you, and for us, it took us a few tries to finally get here today, but here we are. And
when did we meet? We met last year at the Dirt Days or something. Anyway, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been quite some time. So.
Sorry for being hard to get to here.
Man, this is the way it goes. I have zero. I don't get upset about that. Sometimes there's been some people that I've talked to for a year or two or more, and it's like, whatever, man. It's life. Things are always going to play out the way that they're supposed to. So I don't need to spend too much time worrying about it. Those of you guys that made it all the way through this, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. If you want to hear some more, hit subscribe. If you're on the podcast, do the thing where you subscribe on there too, because I think then it downloads automatically. You can get some notifications. You'll know when new things are coming up. But like I said before, if you really want to see what's going on outside of just what's on the channel notifications, go ahead and swing by Instagram or Facebook. Give me a follow over there. And hey, man, I really appreciate all of you out there for sitting and listening and being part of the audience out there, because, if it wasn't for all of you, it doesn't make any sense for me to get out here and talk to somebody for 2 hours on a weekly basis. So thanks to all of you as well. Thanks again, Bryce. Really had a great time chatting with you. And I want all you guys to remember, if there's only one thing that you take out of this, it only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.